All right, guys, let's talk about investing and investments in Pokemon in 2023, what you should be looking at, and the actual breakdown, and really going into the works of how investing works in collectibles. So we will do that right after this. All right, guys. I'm sure some of you guys were probably expecting a spicy video. I'm doing this here in the afternoon, after everything had happened on the internet. Of course, if everybody's following YouTube and follows some of the other channels, of course, you know that Nostalgianomics called me out on the video, which I don't care. Be honest with you, I put my reasonings up there. I don't have anything against Alex. Like I said, just because I have a disagreement with him on a stance does not mean that I have flipped on him and gone into this chamber of echoes that he keeps calling it when it comes down to all these different creators in the Pokemon market. Let's be honest, a lot of the creators he's even calling out aren't that big. We're just all little small fish floating around, and we're not really the big channels at the end of the day. We all just share our knowledge to try and help people, and that's all that it comes down to. And Alex, I don't have any ill intent towards you. I really don't. I think you have some really good content. You have some good points. You have some good counterpoints to some of the people in this hobby, and it's good to go against the stream. It's good to get that information out there, and definitely makes discussions happen. It makes things go when we have this happening. Now, like I said in a comment on your channel, you're a little bit more risky than what I'm willing to do. I don't believe in that kind of risk. I don't believe that there's the necessity to be pushing it to that extreme. I'm more conservative. And once again, it's a different point of view when it comes down to investing. And today we're kind of going to go over that, the nuts and bolts a little bit of investments and what you should look out for and where you should be actually paying attention to when it comes down to investing in the collectibles. Because yes, right now in the Pokemon market, it's great. Just go buy a booster box, set it on your shelf 1 year later, 6 months later, come back to it, and it's probably gained 10 to 20%. Fantastic. That's absolutely great. It has not always been like that. I can tell you that from experience. Even in 2019, it was not like that. In 1999 to 2006, it was not like that. It's just a matter of the times, and there is a lot of hype and FOMO right now in these particular sets. But we're going to take a look at what other collectibles have seen in the past and how this has actually been a big effect to what we could be seeing in any other collectibles, and why there's reasoning behind following these trends and what they could mean. Now, when it comes down to the actual investment point of things, when you talk about vintage versus modern, to me, it's a lost cause. Vintage has its place. It's sought after. It's expensive. There's probably not going to be as much of it available at the end of the day, and you're going to have a hard time finding it as time continues to move on, which is, of course, going to drive that price up even more. Finding PSA 10s inside of that WotC era stuff is going to continually get harder and harder and harder. The populations are not going to gain a lot over time, and especially in that high range grades. You'll see some low range grades start to pop up. I would think around that 6, 7s, you're going to see quite a few of those start to pop up. But overall, it's a pretty well locked down sector, especially after this boom. That brought most of the people out to the surface. Granted, I know people that have not gotten stuff graded, because the fact of the matter is the cost of grading some of those cards is so expensive if they do hit high grades that they would have to sell a card in order to buy it. So why would they do that? They would rather keep it in their own collection. So there's still some out there. There's still going to be some floating around regardless that have the potential of coming up in population, but we're not going to see the giant gains like we are with a Moonbreon or with another card coming up. The Rayquaza VMAXs, looking at the alternate art Arceus cards to the alternate art Charizard cards, and even the Lugia V cards. All these cards are going to continue to move up in population, and they're going to surpass any of the WotC products at the end of the day. Now, the big argument is that going to affect your Pokemon investments? If you invest into these PSA 10s, are there going to be repercussions in the future? And the short answer to that is more than likely. And the long answer to it is it really depends on circumstances that happen in the Pokemon TCG. It really comes down to is how long do you think the Pokemon company is going to be here, be relative, and continue to draw new people in and continue to grow the population base. The problem is that you could get into a situation where the population base starts to decline. And when the population base starts to decline, more people lose interest, the interest of the hobby starts to slow, then you'll get the prices starting to retract. You'll actually lose pricing, especially on those PSA 10s, especially on high population items. it's not just Pokemon, guys. This is just world in general. If you don't have the demand for certain products, but people are trying to sell them, then typically the prices will depreciate because there isn't the people trying to buy it and people are trying to move product. It's just simple economics at that point. Now, granted, people might be able to afford them a little bit more, which may cause more movement in them, especially people that are just sitting and waiting for the right time to purchase things. But at the end of the day, it is going to affect them when you have that much of a population in it. You're really hoping on some certain circumstances to hold up, which is, of course, people remaining in the hobby, or B, more people joining the hobby, bringing money and causing these products to continue to move up in price. It's the same with sealed. It's the same with any of the products. The only advantages that you have with a lot of sealed products is that it's continually being consumed, opened, and used. And if that's the case, then, of course, you start to remove that supply chain, remove that supply of that product to the people, and that naturally causes the prices to gain. That's just a simple way that you could look at it at the end of the day. Now, you could sit there and look at the history of even during the boom and during the last 3 to 4 years here at the Pokemon TCG about hype and FOMO, about the effects of that inside of sets and how they perform over the long term. We can take a look. Once again, I'm going to use Hidden Fates as a perfect example. When I got into the hobby, Hidden Fates came out shortly after I started. I think it was like 6 months later. Hidden Fates was the hottest thing that you could get. You couldn't even find ETBs on the shelf. We were buying like the Raichu boxes and some of the other boxes that had Hidden Fates, but the ETBs were always really difficult to find on shelves. There was a really popular set. Big chase, hype and FOMO galore. That Charizard shot in price extremely fast right out of the gates. It did extremely good, and it was a fun set. It had a lot of fun with the baby shinies, the shiny vault, and everything that it offered. So overall, that set had been a hot set all the way up until the release of Evolving Skies. It got that last reprint in June, just before Evolving Skies was released. We got some ETBs of Hidden Fates rolling out again, one last hurrah before the end of its term. And then we went into Evolving Skies, and Evolving Skies has kind of taken that mantle, that torch from Hidden Fates, and now it is holding that torch and is waiting for the next big thing to hand it off to. So everybody is looking at Evolving Skies as being this big set, this big hype and FOMO set, and yes, it will continue to gain until we get that next best thing. The next best set, the next best thing, which is where it comes down to, my philosophy, which is, number one, I like to get rid of cost basis. I like to buy booster boxes, and I usually want to keep 2 cases, so I'll buy 4. And intentions are is that I will sell 2 cases at some point whenever the pricing gets to the right percentages that I'm looking for, the right numbers that I'm looking for to compensate, and I will sell those items. My intent is that most of my products will probably not sit here for more than 3 to 5 years. And there's a simple philosophy behind that. Number one, I'm not going to sit here and hope that the markets continue to move up in price. When I hit a certain point, just get out, make your money, and move on to the next thing when it comes down to the investment side. When you're looking at it from a perspective of, is these things going to be more money in 10 years? Possibly. They could possibly go there. And I'm okay with not capitalizing on all that gain as long as I make where I want to be. I mean, if I hit the certain percentages I'm looking for and it surpasses it sometimes, Evolving Skies. I just sold 3 cases of Evolving Skies. Man, great. I mean, that gives me a surplus to put into other things. I can put a surplus into, Scarlet and Violet. I can try and go after some Lost Origins, some Brilliant Stars, and even Silver Tempest and Astral Radiance. I can maybe get a bigger position in those ones while keeping back 2 full boxes or cases of Evolving Skies on my shelf. Is that a bad situation? No. I don't have any cost basis to the Evolving Skies that's still sitting here on the shelf, but I can definitely increase my positioning on other sets without pulling money out of my personal accounts. Or the other thing that I've been looking at is buying a Flareon Gold Star. It's a big cost. It's expensive for my collection side of things. Once again, I try to fuel my collection with my investments. So by doing so, that's where it comes down to taking money, fueling the machine to go forward. I don't want money to be sitting there for a long period of time, because in collectibles, the longer that a product sits on the shelf, the more likely it is to lose value or stagnate to the point where it doesn't make any more money. And that's where you don't want to get in these things. So that's where, to me, the 3 to 5 year time frame for most of these sets is probably where we're at. It seems to be pretty consistent moving down the line. I mean, you go from Roaring Skies to Hidden Fates to, rolling right into Evolving Skies. It's between 2 and 3 years, so that might even have to be assessed. Always keep things in assessment. Watch the markets, watch your products, be sure that things are doing well, and you'll do really good on the long run of things. You know, the biggest thing is that right now, anything you buy turns to gold. It's just the markets right now, and we don't know how long those will last. I mean, I'm being on the conservative side, someone that's on the risky high end type of thing that's willing to take it, take the big gamble and run her out, will say, well, it's just going to have a little bit of slowdown, and then in 6 years it'll take off again. But to me, it's just not worth the risk. I'd rather capitalize in the short term in the 3 to 5 year range, and then be able to roll it into the newest, latest, greatest thing that's coming out in the Pokemon TCG. We see it every era. We see it all the time, that something always replaces the last great thing, and it just takes time to find it. Whatever it is, it'll happen. When it happens, it'll be right in front of you, and you'll be sitting there wondering why you didn't jump on it sometimes. I know there's a lot of people who are wondering why they didn't jump on Evolving Skies. I love the set, and I bought 10 cases of it when it was under $100, $99 plus tax. I paid like 104 or something a piece. Once again, fantastic buy, but a lot of risk. There's a lot of money sitting there on the risk that Evolving Skies could get massive reprints. It could have gotten printed over and over and over again. Something could have replaced that Moonbreon a lot earlier than what it has, and still hasn't really replaced it with anything. But it could have been replaced at any point in time with something better. That alternate art Charizard could have absolutely dethroned that Umbreon as the chase of the Sword and Shield era, and then everybody would have moved to that point. So that's just it. That's the questions that you have to look at. And there's a lot of variables when it comes down to it. And the longer that you're in the hobby, the longer that you're holding these investments in hand for the Pokemon TCG, the longer that you have to have things complicate and risk your investments at the end of the day. So that's where I do think long term, any of these modern products will do well. It just depends on how long you want to hold them, how long until the next boom. You can't predict that either. We might have another thing that accelerates Pokemon TCG next year. Or it might be in 5 years, or it might be in 8 years, or it could be in 20 years. It might be again like the last one, almost 25 years or 20 years here in the United States between the real first big boom. Yeah, there was a little Pokemon Go boom, and then all of a sudden the big one that really shot all these prices up. So you're always playing a lot of risk when it comes down to it. The further you extend your period of time holding on to things. Now, when it comes down to collecting items, I really don't care about pricing. All these cards behind me, I really don't follow the pricing on them at all. I really don't care. I just like them. I think that they're really cool collection pieces. Overall, full art trainers, I think I'm going to start doing more of my collection onto those too. I want to try and fill in that Sword and Shield block with the full art trainers. I think that'd be a lot of fun. They look really good in a collection, and there's quite a few of them. So it's going to be a pretty large endeavor to actually try and get those with some decent grades on them. So once again, when it comes down to the collection side, there is going to be some opportunities, and some of them aren't expensive, and some of them will be fairly expensive depending on what you're looking for. So once again, guys, hopefully that gives you some good information, some good things in your side pocket to be looking at when it comes down to looking at your investments and how long do you want to actually stay in the game. Do you want to risk it all for the biscuit, as they say, and hope that in 10 years that it holds out really well? Or do you want to sit there and look at that 3 to 5 year game and reduce the amount of risks and the amount of downfalls and pitfalls you might run into at the end of the day? And that could be the biggest difference between being profitable and possibly just sitting on a shelf for another 5 years, hoping that it actually gets a bump, and it may never do it. So once again, we are in good times, great times. If you want to buy booster boxes right now, I don't think you're in any ill intent, no problems with it. There's not going to be any issues in the near future that we can see. Depending on reprints and how much reprints we get. Now I see that Eli, I haven't watched the video yet. He's talking reprints, but once again, I need to get a hold of my distributor. I apologize. I've been trying to get time to do that, and he's been busy and I've been busy, so we've just been missing each other. So as soon as I get a hold of him and find out what we're looking at and what kind of numbers we're looking at, if he's getting any decent amount of product, I will definitely post that on the community page. So if you guys are interested in watching that community page a little bit more, I've been posting more and more things, trying to post more things up there. Like I said, I've been busy trying to get caught up on all my training after COVID, so that's been a real treat too, on top of a heavy workload. So been trying to dig through that, plus get all my certifications up to date. I had grace periods over COVID, and now this year they decided they're no longer giving me grace periods. So I have about 15 certifications I have to get caught up with in order to keep my main certification. So it's been fun. So yeah, it's been a little bit more difficult with the training periods to stay up to date on all this stuff and keep up to date with distributors, LGSs and everything else, but I'm trying my best. Once again, I'm trying to give you good information to continue making decisions for when you want to purchase things and when you want to move up with things. But other than that, guys, I will conclude this video, of course, talking about the investment side and what you should be looking at. Like I said, it's kind of up to you and how much risk you want to put into it. The riskier solution is long-term. I mean, you want to sit long-term, take a lot of risk, hope that it holds up and really just throw money at every single booster box that you can do it right now. It works out. There's good gains. Overall, it's just concerning to me when that's your only choice of action, because there's a lot of things that could happen that cause some real pitfalls along the way in Pokemon TCG. We could go back to Black and White, Diamond and Pearl, and Heart Gold, Soul Silver era. We really didn't see much movement. The whole market was pretty dead at that point in time. But it does correct, it does change. It's just a matter of how much risk you're willing to put into that point. So once again, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. Once again, we are doing the new membership where we are doing a giveaway now monthly in the membership. So if you join a 99% membership, of course, you get the cool emojis, you get the recognition in the chat. I'm also going to start posting some more things into the membership side, and we're doing the monthly giveaway. Say thank you to the members. More members we get, the bigger the giveaway we'll get. I'm just going to continue to keep moving that forward and working with you guys to better adapt and help you guys along the way. So other than that, guys, thanks for joining me. And as always, we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.